The year 1947, July, when a strange object crashed on a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico, attracting the world's attention and sparking rumors of UFOs and extraterrestrial life. From the military's initial claims of a flying disc being found to the later explanation that it was a weather balloon, the true nature of the Roswell incident has been shrouded in mystery and speculation. But what exactly happened at Roswell? Did a UFO really crash there, and were there alien beings found in the wreckage? And why was the incident covered up by the government for so long? These are only a small part of the questions that continue to excite researchers to this day, to which we will seek answers in today's episode of Hidden Origins. Welcome. Richard Rinkin is a veteran aviator who observes the flight of round objects flying at 80 kilometers per hour. Arranged in the shape of letter V, a woman from the city sees the same thing. Later on July 2, 1947, at around 9:50 p.m., a family saw a bright oval-shaped flying object leaving behind a red light. At exactly the same time, a farmer named William McBrazel heard a loud explosion. The next day, in the pasture of the farm, he, together with 7-year-old Timothy Proctor, the son of neighbors, noticed light pieces of metal scattered chaotically over a large area. It turns out that the object seen by several observers crashed on the farmer's ranch, having previously exploded in the air, most likely due to bad weather conditions and magnetic storms. After taking a few pieces to show his neighbors, the farmer takes them to Roswell and presents them to Sheriff George Wilcox. The pieces were made of a strange thin foil-like metal and did not undergo any deformation even when struck with a hammer. Also, some of them had strange hieroglyphs. The sheriff contacted the commander of the elite base of the US Air Force, and a special group of officers arrived on the scene, which the former took to the mansion on July 7, 1947. More metal debris was found, and about 3 kilometers away, the ship was found partially stuck in the ground. Scattered around the ship were 4 dead bodies of the crew, who were later assumed to have ejected moments before the crash. The pilots' bodies were dressed in stretchy silver jumpsuits. Together with the remains of the ship, they were loaded onto 2 trucks and taken to the base that same evening. A specialized unit of military police is sent to carton off the area around the farm. A press release is also being sent about the strange event. On July 8, 1947, a front-page headline in the Roswell Daily Record reported that the military had found a flying saucer. The press release says, "The many rumors about flying discs became a reality yesterday. The intelligence service of the 509th Bombardment Group of the 8th Air Force from Roswell Base was able to acquire 1 disc thanks to the cooperation of a local farmer and the Chavez Country Sheriff. The flying object landed on the grounds of a ranch near Lower Roswell last week. Since he did not have a phone, the farmer kept the disc until he contacted the sheriff, who in turn notified Match Jess, a marshal of intelligence at 509 that group, bombed. Appropriate action was immediately taken and the disc was removed from the farm. After inspection at Roswell Air Force Base, it was subsequently turned over by Major Marshall to the higher authorities that evening. However, the commander of the 8th Air Force called the press conference to refute the already circulated report, as Washington had ordered the case to be covered up. So the next day, the official version suddenly changes, and it was reported that it was just a fallen weather balloon. And there is no mystery surrounding the case. You're right, the strange thing is that Roswell was the home of the 509th Bombardment Squadron. It was the only squadron armed with atomic bombs. Its pilots were the best in the world, and the thought that intelligence officers from this base could mistake a weather balloon for UFO was absurd. The remains of the disc, along with the dead bodies, were taken to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for research, which was the most advanced scientific and technical research center in the United States at that time. There, the specialists found that the ship was manufactured using extraterrestrial technology. The military intervention thus prevented the leak of information, and the Roswell case sank into oblivion. Between January 1947 and December 1952, 16 more wrecked UFOs, 65 alien bodies, and one living alien, Aero, who survived a crash were found. Of these incidents, 13 occurred within US borders and 3 occurred in Norway and Mexico. Several years later, many of the still living eyewitnesses to the crash began to speak about what they had seen, and Major Jesse Marcel, one of the men who cleared the wreckage, openly announced in an interview in 1980 that the wreckage was certainly of a spacecraft, not a weather balloon, and that the military covered up the case. His words were supported by other eyewitnesses of what really happened. In 1991, another witness to the incident appeared, Glenn Dennis. In 1947, he drove a soldier to an army hospital near Roswell and found unusual tension. He assumed that it was related to a plane crash and asked to help. He stopped a nurse who was coming out of the manipulation room, but she advised him to disappear immediately so as not to get himself into big trouble, which he kind of did, because after a while the military police escorted him off the base. The next day, he met her again, and she was very excited. She insisted on an oath not to tell anyone and shared details of alien bodies found. In 1995, physical evidence of the incident also appeared. An officer who wished to remain anonymous showed a film he had personally shot in 1947, and which he had kept hidden ever since. The tape contained a recording of an autopsy performed on one of the alien bodies. Since the release of the film, the story has once again returned to the focus of public attention, and the strange behavior of the military adds to the mystery. Some of the witnesses even accused the military of abducting their relatives, who did not keep silent about what they saw. Among them was Major Marcel, who claimed that his father had fallen victim to the government's cover-up to revealing what he had seen. What happened after Roswell? Is there a possibility that this object did not accidentally crash into these lands? Could this have been a hint, a clue, to humanity's awareness? Roswell is an event whose history has been suppressed, and commission known as the Majestic 12 was formed on the occasion. Created by General George Marshall, its purpose was to investigate the Roswell and Magdalena UFO crashes. The director of the CIA at the time, Admiral Helen Cotter, decided to take control of all civilian UFO research teams and implant his own people in them. The Majestic 12 is made up of 12 distinguished military intelligence and scientists tasked with investigating and discovering the event. The existence of MJ-12 was first claimed in the late 1980s by a document allegedly leaked from a government agency. The document contains a list of names of prominent individuals claimed to have been members of the committee, including high-ranking military, government scientists, and intelligence agents. With the creation of MJ-12, the CIA was not able to use this information to push people in any desired direction. Thus, the Flying Saucer program remained completely under the control of MJ-12, and the physical evidence was duly removed and hidden. In 1958, an intact UFO was discovered in the Utah desert. It was probably left there on purpose and was a real mystery to the scientists of the time. His toolkit turned out to be so complex that it remained incomprehensible to American specialists. These spacecrafts were kept 4 years in secret, hiding places, and analyzed by the best experts. It would be really interesting to find out where all the UFO information is being kept. Perhaps the most famous place rumored to harbor alien debris in a secret engineering facility known as Area 51. After years of denying its existence, the United States government eventually officially recognized the base. But is it possible that Area 51 is storing alien artifacts collected from alien crashes? The secret military base Area 51 in Nevada is said to be a center for research into the Roswell case, but also other alien encounters, as well as time travel, teleportation, and jumping between parallel realities. If a UFO really crashed in Roswell and alien bodies were found around it, do we know what they were? Where do they come from, and why? Let's look at the following idea. What is claimed is that the Roswell aliens are grey, a race that hails from the Zeta Reticuli, a binary star system located about 39 light-years from Earth. The constellation Reticulum, registered and introduced in the 18th century by Nicolas Louis de Larquet, is one of the smallest constellations in the southern sky. About 15 stars of constellation can be observed with the naked eye, but most of them are very faint and they are none of visible magnitude. The 4 brightest stars form a rhombus, at one apex of which several more stars are concentrated. Reticuli is near Barnard's star, which is part of the Orion system. What did they look like? Grey creatures are small and frail with grey skin, no hair and large heads. Their height averages between 90 and 150 centimeters. They have large almond-shaped eyes, completely black and slightly slanted, slightly pronounced nose, to small holes, small mouth in place of the ears, their openings that completely replace them. They lack reproductive and digestive systems and reproduce by cloning. The first studies of grace that we know are from the Roswell case, when in January 1947, an FBI agent reported the discovery in the desert of 3 flying saucers, in which the bodies of humanoid beings in silver suits, only 3 feet tall, were found. The remains of the ship, along with the aliens, were taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for examination. Why do these beings need to come here on Earth? NASA official Trish Chamberson announced at press conference in Washington that extraterrestrials have long visited Earth, and we had contact with them. He said, "The Greys have been visiting our planet for thousands of years. They even have a base on," he said, as they claim that nuclear explosions affect parallel universes. Richard Dolan is a television personality and one of America's most respected ufologists. He conducted an interview with a former military and CIA agent under the false name Cooper Stein, who in 2013 in poor health agreed to be interviewed. Cooper Stein died in the following year. Dolan asked Stein to explain the process of his visit to the base with his superior and what he saw there. Stein replied that they were taken to the S4 base, which is located around 20 to 25 kilometers south of Area 51. He saw aircraft resembling flying saucers in different garage doors. The first garage contained the Roswell ship, which was damaged, and all the aliens inside it died except for 2. Stein described the Roswell craft as made of heavy aluminium foil and light, weighing around 130 kilograms. He claimed that its power source was like reverse gravity, and he even obtained the mathematical code for gravity reversal later on. Stein also said that he saw evidence of different types of grey aliens when he was shown an autopsy film and was told that they were going to interview a grey alien. At that moment, the spacecraft or UFOs found in Roswell and other crash set the stage for the development of advanced proportions methods that secret organizations used in the following decades. There is some information on Majestic 12 that describes these engines. But if these extraterrestrial civilizations have such advanced technology, why do their flying objects crash into Earth's? And can this be prevented? Well, according to the book My Father Was a Man in Black by Jan Van Helsing, the Roswell incident involved not just one craft, but that crashed after accidents in different areas of the US. It is said that the ships of these races can stay in the air for a while, even damaged, hence the spatial difference. In fact, the reason for the fall of the flying saucers is not some problem in the engine, but in the field orientation of the planet. The flying machines of the representatives of the race back then took the form of discs, which were driven according to the usual fusion principle. It had significant advantages, but also disadvantages. In this method, the repulse field must of course be at an absolutely correct angle to the Earth's surface, but the pilots used a guidance technology in which it is self-regulating and by the attraction of the Earth's magnetic fields. But the aliens had recently arrived on Earth from a planet with a stable magnetic field where they created and used the engine of the apparatus. The Earth's magnetic field is actually unstable, subject to cyclic fluctuations and under unfavorable circumstances, creates a field vortex. During the 1947 Roswell incident, one of the ships rocked. His field unexpectedly collided with that of his companion, and the two ships collided and were severely damaged. 1639, the cause of the magnetic fluctuations at that time was some electrical disturbance. After that, the machines fell, one near the collision site, the other several hundred kilometers away. All crew members died in the impact. By itself, the thin shell of such discs is not stable because they are not protected against falling, and during flight no external forces act on the field anyway. When the flying objects crash on Earth, they're immediately classified as top secret and taken to bases to analyze the engines, the secret aspiration being to one day use the alien technology against enemy nations. What would happen if these alien technologies start to be used by us? And aren't those already being developed? In the book, Van Helsing gives two interesting conclusions that he makes. The first is based on an interview of UFO magazine editor Bill Burns with Admiral George Hoover, who died in 1998. Hoover worked for the Naval Intelligence Service. According to him, the great secret of the Navy is that the visitors at Roswell are we, ourselves, from the future. Actually, the Roswell creatures were time travelers, not aliens. He emphasizes that the biggest mystery isn't even time travel, but the abilities and powers of consciousness of these travelers. What was scary for the military was actually the knowledge of actual human capabilities. Admiral Hoover went on to explain that it really should be repressed, most severely because of people knew how strong they were and what qualities they possessed. They could create great chaos, which should not be allowed. We are able to construct reality in such a way, and it's completely real as future humans have learned to do, which gives them access to such incredible possibilities as traveling between realities. The second message the author makes is related to the bodies of extraterrestrial beings. He points out that some aliens do not possess the physically organized flesh known to humans, but are simply spiritual beings who inhabit an artificial and non-biological body in part, because it is far more suitable for space travel. This means that they're inserted into a pre-prepared body, meaning they incarnate in it without losing their knowledge. It's like getting into a car and driving from point A to point B. When they get out, they still remember everything. This is the case with many of the so-called aliens who, unlike humans, do not forget what they learned when they enter a new body, but have an overview of millennia and even more. They accept the flesh they inhabit as a tool with which to operate in the physical world. But doesn't that happen to ourselves respectively to souls? When we are in human bodies, we to have a task to perform, and the flesh is the instrument by which we realize ourselves as soul spiritual beings in the present physical world. If we manage to include these two aspects into our daily life and realize that we are not actually the bodies, we are in them, and that with our thoughts, desires, and emotions we can create our own reality, we have already taken the biggest step. Interestingly, in April 2020, in a video message, the great-granddaughter of Eisenhower talks about her great-grandfather's encounters with aliens. My great-grandfather had contact with different types of aliens. There were all kinds of projects in the American government. They were included in the governor's centers and in the secret space programs. She completes her message with warning about the currently existing planetary elite on Earth. The super-secret forces of cosmic laws and natural creation are opposed to your designs and your anti-life plan. Great forces are at work that will not allow you to triumph. I feel for you right now. I feel sorry for you because you want to play this dark and shady role. If you continue to violate people's independence and freedom, you will sink deeper and deeper, and from there you will not be able to get out. I don't know what that looks like to you. I'm not even sure if you're of the human race. To try to separate us from the source, which is our sacred birthright, and to make us into prey does not correspond to the original line of unconditional love from which we all originate. According to sources, Eisenhower himself concluded a contract with representatives of the Grey race. According to the signed agreement, the aliens receive permission for biological experiments, including humans, and the government receives alien technology, including those with military applications. Representatives of other alien races refuse such consent because it would effectively place one nation above another. According to Laura Eisenhower, the signatories of the treaty come from failed groups that have irreversibly damaged their DNA. She says that every succeeding president, after a great-grandfather, is required to resign the existing treaty, and the secret folder on the presence of aliens is passed from president to president. A large part of the military personnel, government agents, governors and many church officials were present when the agreement was made with the alien race. All, or nearly all, who attended this meeting with the reticulants subsequently became ill. They developed some kind of mental imbalance of a psychotic nature, some of them even committing suicide. It turns out that the very energy of these beings has affected them, and the consequences are significant. California occultist and medium Gerald Light claims to have attended this meeting to see what the sociological influence will be and the impact contact would have on society. John Kennedy himself wanted to introduce them to the public as early as the 1960s. But was it too early? Is that why they're slowly, but surely preparing humanity for a new era through books and especially through movies? One thing is certain, we are not alone. Are we ready to accept the truth and meet them? It depends entirely on our choice. We bow before you and thank you for watching another episode of Hidden Origins. Keep your minds open, and until we meet again.